Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. The Gita begins with last time I forgot to do that. It begins with two verses. The customary chant, Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Yasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadishadhyayinim Ambatvam Anusandadhavi Bhagavad Gite Bhavadveshinim Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. So the message, the nectarine message given to Arjuna is, metaphorically portrayed as the essence of Vedas is Upanishads. The essence of the cow's existence, as far as man is concerned, as far as the veggie man is concerned, is the milk that he derives from the cow. So the essence of the Vedas, which is Upanishads, that is the cow having its milk, and now somebody has to extract that essence and then broadcast it to the whole world. So Krishna plays the role of the milkman. He milks those cows, gets the essence, Upanishads, but then the cow will often be revolting. The cow needs to be pacified to patiently take out the very essence without hurting the cow and without mutilating it, without disturbing it. So in order to pacify the cow, so to say, a nimitta, Arjuna, like a calf, is kept in the front. So this imagery is a very beautiful imagery, comes in the introduction of the Gita. So essentially, it means that the Gita that we are studying is the essence of the Vedas, which is Upanishads. And it has come directly from no less than Krishna, who is an avatara, supposed to be born yesterday, a few thousands of years ago. So very holy occasion. And it's only befitting that we also look into what Vivekananda, how he extolled the character called Krishna. Krishna does not require extolation, but often the human mind requires these kinds of description, adulatory description, so that our mind gets attracted to that. So, he has written a small lecture on Krishna. It's worthwhile to go through that. It's possibly there in the first volume. So there you will see he making a lot of things he says. I mean, the entire lecture is a matter of, and 1 hour of discourse. And the two things which I liked very much in Swami Vivekananda's narration about Krishna is that he said, well, Jesus was born, subsequently Prophet was born, and then Buddha was born, and also Nanak was born, and Mahavir was born, and Lao Tse was born from China. All of them were born and all of them were realized persons. They were all, but in the height of their learning, they did something very unique about themselves, is that they started a religion of their own. Their uniqueness got transformed into a matha, or an opinionated, structured sect, so to say. Swami Vivekananda does not call each of these religions as religions themselves. He calls them as sects. For he believes that there is only one religion. The religion is only one, and its various manifestations are the various sects. And there are each sect attracts a group, and it gets localized beliefs and faiths and dogmas and doctrines. Everything is within the fabric of that sect. So he says all these religions, so he does not use the word religion at all. He said all of them began a sect. But a personality who was born ahead of all of them, ahead of all the names that we have taken, Sri Krishna, a towering personality, and went through the life just as a commoner, and attained the exalted state of realization in that very birth. And then he broadcasted in the language that is acceptable to all, but did not institute a sect. So that clearly talks about the universality of the message in the Gita. So Vivekananda makes a very poignant observation, and he notes it down. He never started a sect. For that matter, if you look at the life of Krishna, what did he lack? He had everything. But he never was a king by himself. He was a king maker. He never was a king. Dwaraka was a kind of a forsaken land. To call king of a Dwaraka or a leader of a Dwaraka means nothing. Right? It was clannish. It was more clannish. The Yadava clan got protected within the Dwaraka realm, and he was more a protector rather than a king. But on the other hand, he made several kings. Akrura was made a king of Mathura, and then needless to say, the Dhritarashtra, Yudhishthira, and not only that, many more. Many he did, unstated. So, but what did he lack? He lacked everything. So, what it means to say is that he did not come here to create a new uprising. He wanted to stabilize. He said that we sufficiently have everything with us. It's just that things have gone astray. And the things that have gone astray needs to be just ordered. So he brought in that orderliness, the adharma, which is supposed to be the disorderliness. And so what do you do for bringing orderliness? You don't have to, bring something from outside inside. It's just whatever is there within, we need to make the best of it. And Krishna had the unique formula. And, his life itself was a message. And essentially, he put everything that he knew, he realized, and that he wanted to say in the 700 verses of the Gita. So, we are very fortunate that we are, on the very next day of his birth, we are beginning with the words of Krishna himself. He says, Klaibhyam masmagam of partha, naitatvayi upapadyate, kshudram hridaya daurbalyam, tektva tishta parantapa. It's the Veera Gayatri. For a sunken soul, you cannot have a message more stronger and a voice more prominent. And the encouragement more pronounced to resurrect yourself and, go ahead. But this did not work, After all, Arjuna had to wait for 700 more verses to be uttered for our own good. Ultimately, I thank Arjuna's ignorance. For had he been enlightened, we wouldn't have got this out of Krishna. In fact, Krishna, when he brought out this nectarine message, later at the end of the war, war means chaos. Everything was given prior to the beginning of the war, but after the end of the war, Arjuna wanted to experience the same exalted state which Sri Krishna helped him to attain. But then Krishna himself said, see, that is a state which I myself will not be able to get into. So, what we have got in the form of Gita is something which Sri Krishna himself holds it at a very high value. So even he was not able to, so to say. He says that inspiration is not easy for me to get again. However, he says in some few nuggets of wisdom he exchanges, but it actually pales into insignificance in front of the towering inferno like Bhagavad Gita. So even if the Lord wants to say something, he has to, possibly he also requires the time and space conditioning along with a person like Arjuna to bring the best out of him. So Arjuna continued to be lamenting. He says, Guru Nahatva hi Mahanubhavan. What is it? You are again forcing me to kill my own masters. I have learnt all this warfare from these people only. Shreyo bhoktum bhaksham apiha noke atvartha kamans guru nihaiva bhunjeya bhogan rudhira pratiktan. Where is the wisdom in having these enjoyments which are tainted with the blood of my own relatives? Do I need to have this kind of an enjoyment? And so finally he says, he supplicates himself to the command of Sri Krishna. He says that my intellect has stopped working. Karpanya doshaha. See, this is something which is a shloka which actually made Krishna talking. Till then, Krishna, Klaibhyam Masmagama and one more, Kutastva Kashmalana. Besides these two shlokas, he did not continue the advice because Arjuna was not in the listening mode. He was still lamenting, he was still cogitating upon all the negatives that is within him, and he was not permitting himself to give a patient hearing to what Sri Krishna has to say. So that is something which we get as a quality of a student, that he must get out of the bias. He says that Karpanyam, but he realized where he made his mistake, where he is making his mistake. Karpanyam, Kripanata, some kind of a chicken-heartedness has got hold of him. That is a dosha, that is a sin. Apahataha, I've been engulfed. Swabhavaha, what has been snatched away? My swabhava has been snatched away. Apahataha means snatching away. Because of this cowardliness, my swabhava, his swabhava is a warrior quality. And it is unbecoming of him to, sink on his knees. So he said, my real self has been robbed of. Prichamitvam, I ask you, I beseech from you, I solicit your advice. Welcome. Dharma sammuda chetaha. So Dharma sammuda is, the variety of reasoning that he gave for why this war should not be fought. So on the basis of what is called his understanding of the codes of ethics and morality and the common practices and the society's orderliness, the way he has read it, nothing of it worked in his favor to settle his mind. See, Arjuna, even after resorting to this kind of a very logical derivation and holding on to the rigor and the tenor, he was not getting the peace of mind. A person who is logically correct must end up with peace of mind. Correct? Because anything that is logically proved should be in conviction. But he was not getting conviction. That means the logic has started with a false premise. Anything that starts with a false premise, you can never arrive at the truth or wisdom. Right? So the false premise never let him to settle on the convictions, on the derivations that he made out of his own understanding. So he says, Dharma sammudha chetaha. Dharma sammudha cheta yachreyasya. Now that I'm confused, yachreyasya, what is actually beneficial to me? Please tell me. Shadimam tvam. And protect me. Command me and protect me with this clarity that you seem to possess. Sishyastekam shadimam tvam prapannam. Nahi prapashyami mapanudya. Same thing he reiterates. Yachoka muchoshanam indriyanam. Avapya bhuma vasapatnam ruddham. Rajyam suranam apichadipatyam. So these two verses makes Arjuna completely fall intellectually flat in front of Sri Krishna, and then he was now ready to listen. Now Krishna opens the book. He finishes only after 700 verses. So then he understood that Arjuna is someone who can be used as a medium to broadcast to the whole world the philosophy of wisdom and practice. He says the opening verse is a kind of a verse which actually, Swami Sharadananda, who happens to be the direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, who also was the first general secretary of our order. And then he also visited United States for a short stint, but he served long as a general secretary. So he wrote a small book on Gita, the message of Gita. I think the call of Gita, I think. And he says, much to my disagreement earlier, and now I cannot but agree with him, that the message of the Gita is condensed in this first verse. Ashocyan anvashochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase gatasu nagratasuscha nanu shochanti panditaha. Somehow, Saradananda ji seems to have been very much inspired by this particular shloka, the very first verse of Sri Krishna, giving him the advice. He says, you are grieving for those who are not to be grieved for. So grief is something which is actually coming out of ignorance. That's what Sri Krishna will prove after a little while. So grief is something which has never done anything good to people. People justify saying that I am grieving for his sake. He says, how else? Suppose there is a family which is bereaving the passing of the elder. Correct? And you go there, you share their grief with them. That's okay. I mean, that's a kind of a social orderliness. But eventually, is this grief eternal? Is this grief real? It's not going to be real. It's just a passing phase. The passing phase cannot be real. It's a kind of a minor psychological adjustment that we are doing to ourselves. For the very family which is bereaving the passing away of an elder are going to come to terms. A little shorter or a little longer. Even they are going to come. They are not going to get stagnated or fixated in that particular idea, that they are going to outgrow themselves. And when they are going to have much more fun time, their fun is never thwarted by one such accident. So where is the grief? What is there to grieve? What a wonderful message. If the grief is not going to help you down the line, why at all have it? So where is the wisdom in seeking yourself and become convalescent within yourself and not being the best of your being at the time when you are supposed to muster all your strength? There's no wisdom. So he says, well, it is to your Lord that you have to fight this war. Because you have planned for it. It's not that it is just coming like that. You have planned for it, you have waited for it, and the time is very well deserving that you engage in this war. But now is the case, now you are worrying about death. As if this is something new to you. So Vashocha, you are not supposed to worry for those. Anvashochastvam prajnavadamscha bhashase. See, that's where the taunt actually comes. The taunt actually comes here, that you are talking as if you are a learned person. Because he gave a lot of derivation, with a false premise, he made all the derivations, logical derivations, so which usually an intellectual does. Prajnavadamscha bhashase. But no, a prajna, a person who is truly established in knowledge. Jna means knowledge, jnanam. Pra means something special. So prajna is a special knowledge. So a person who has got knowledge of something which is superior, not mundane. Rasagulla, jalebi are all knowledge certainly, but they are mundane knowledge. Right? So when a person who is endowed with a supreme knowledge, he is not going to conduct justice the way you are doing. Gatasu nagatasu cha nanu shochanti pandita. The person who is living and the person who has left by. If you are a real pandita here means panda actually means knowledge. And the knowledge also is not any ordinary knowledge, it's the knowledge of the self, the supreme knowledge, panda. So we call purohitas pandas, right? But that's actually a kind of a degradation of the usage. For a period of time, better words get to be used for lesser purposes. So likewise, panda also got misused. So because he is with the God, with the knowledge of the God, and but he is with the God as well as with the devotee, and now more with the devotee, less with the God, and only with the devotee, never with the God. But still he is going to be considered as a panda. The entire transformation is so. Panditaha is not going to be really worried about these kinds of things which are coming and going. Gatasun, agatasun. Actually, the language, the grammar, and the cadence, each of which are very adorable with regards to Gita. But in a quick crash course such as 10 hours of interaction, we have to run through the woods and miss a lot of trees, which I will be doing it. So after the first shloka, he says, and then, Krishna in the second chapter actually takes three approaches. Three approaches to convince Arjuna. One is, driving the due diligence, they say. First of all, you have to drive in the due diligence. That is, you call a spade a spade. If that doesn't work, then use another technique. If that also doesn't work, then use a third technique. Fourth technique was not necessary because fourth technique is stick. That wasn't necessary in the case of Arjuna. But he understood that if the fourth is going to come, prior to that, no, he supplicated. He says, yes, enough is enough. I've had my knowledge. That happens towards the end. So all the this kind of three things he uses. So first he uses to call a spade technique. What is that? It will be harsh. To call a spade is harsh, because sometimes you don't. Suppose you ask a question and the student doesn't answer. Do you feel hurt? So the student is not answering. Okay, first question he helped. Okay, second question also the teacher helped. Up to 10 questions also the student does. So it's very easy and even right for the teacher to say, hey, why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? You should be attentive. So to tell that to the student is very easy. And if you call a stupid, who doesn't think that he's a stupid, he will naturally feel very hurt. He will feel very hurt. Because he thinks himself as somebody who knows, but I am no brand of stupid. It will be a blow of your ego. So, to call a spade is not always easy. But Sri Krishna uses that approach. He doesn't castigate Arjuna in this way, but he gives the right knowledge. He says that, see, you have to know the truth. Once you know the truth, then you devise your own method of how you are going to apply the truth in your way of life. That's up to you. But a priori, you should know the truth. That's what it's called, you should know the premises. Before we actually build a theory, we need to have a body of propositions and premises. If you can't, then what is the theory you're going to build? It's going to be whimsical. That's precisely that kind of a life which is led without any premise is a whimsical life. This moment, one kind of a mindset, another moment, a different mindset, sometime high, sometime low, and there won't be any consistency. So that's the reason why we should a priori know the premises. So Sri Krishna puts the highest knowledge, the knowledge of the self. He gives the condensed spiritual knowledge in the first few verses of the Gita. If a person is attuned to the spiritual vibrations because of possibly, having suffered sufficiently and not finding any other way to go, or of having done quite a lot of exercise, mental and spiritual exercise, and is ripened enough to appreciate the true knowledge, for him, he doesn't have to read all the 700 verses. The first few verses is sufficient. So Krishna made it very clear that the front benchers, in the true sense of the term, not here, the front benchers may leave after the first few verses. The back benchers may choose to leave if they are not bored. So the best of the knowledge he gives at the very beginning itself, which is very good, You don't have to beat about the bush. Quite often, the lessons I am doing. This is very unbecoming of to begin on the next day of Krishna's coming, to start a lecture beating about the bush. Krishna didn't do that. So he says, Natve vaham jatunasam natvam neme janadipaha natvevana bhavishyamaha sarve vayam atah param. He says, you see, there never was a time you never was. There never will be a time you never shall be. Okay, so he says that you are an eternal person. You are an eternal person. You are worried about somebody dying and being born. This particular coming and going and this kind of differences is not fitting into the theory of eternal existence. The reality is eternal existence. So now you are looking at somebody coming and going. That means what? You are not attuned to the reality. You are holding on to something, which even an elephant or a mouse also holds on to that. A mouse has its own relatives, correct? The bigger mouse, smaller mouse, little mouse, shorter mouse, fatter mouse, mother mouse, grand mouse. So many mice are there. They have a good family, correct? So they also believe the death. They will not eat their own dead material. You know, they will not eat their dead material. So they do have that kind of a very, very basic respect for their own clan. So it doesn't require supernatural intelligence, just as a man having, to appreciate that kind of social life. Know something better. What is the something better which we know? That the life is eternal. Nothing that comes and goes. This is very apparent. This is very temporary. That's a wonderful message at the very beginning. You never was in the past. Arjuna would have been really confounded in this belief, saying that what is this? I know I was born to the Pandu just the other day. I went through a lot of hurdles. Now I am in the middle of madness called war. And he says that I was never was a time when I was not. That means my past is infinite. How is it possible? So that means that my existence cannot be only confined to this boundary of the body. The body came. The body was apparently taken possession of. And then the life process, so to say, began. Correct? So Arjuna was reminded of this age-old message, learning, which we get from the Upanishads. As we told, he is actually milking the Upanishads and giving those nuggets of wisdom in a manner that's very easy for us to digest, just as the way milk is absorbed without any, the body is not refusing any of the material of the milk. Actually, there's only one substance in the creation of God which body doesn't refuse. It takes the whole thing. In the milk, water is refused. There's a bit of water which is refused. So minus that, everything of the milk is absorbed. That's the beauty of milk. So Upanishads being given as nuggets of wisdom in Gita is like that. And there is one more natural material, can you guess? Perfect. Honey. Honey is something which body doesn't refuse. Everything gets into your bloodstream. Okay, good. So the guys are awake. So dehi nosmin yatha dehi kaumaram. So then, just as the way, even I would be getting this doubt that if somebody is going to talk about my eternity, I immediately look at my age. This is the one I colored yesterday, I am wearing today. And then how is it that I am called eternal? The same doubt possibly went through Arjuna, and immediately comes the answer from Krishna. He says, this deha is being taken. This body is being taken and it's going to be given up. But you take a house and then you give up the house. The house is not real. The owner, in fact, for instance, he can own several houses. Correct? Would you confine owner with the house? Certainly not. He has greater freedom. So Sri Krishna reminds Arjuna of the higher degree of freedom he has, and not to belittle it and confine it only with the most disrespectful body, so to say. Because he is having it today, tomorrow he is throwing it away. What respect? What is it that you hold with respect that you throw it away? Nothing. Respect always goes with, embracing. You embrace that. So you're throwing it away, that you don't have the respect for it. So he says, Dehi nosmi kaumaram yuvvanam jara. I am young, I am a kid, I become an adolescent, a youth, an adult, jara, even old age. Just as this transformation happens, it happens only to the body, not to myself. In fact, that's pretty understandable, You don't even require, very fancy philosophy to make us understand that there's something which is beyond all these ephemeral transitions. The sense of I. The sense of I continues, right? You say that when I was a kid, when I was an adult, when what I am now. So the I seems to be like a thread upon which there are pearls of different stages of life being threaded. As if it's a single story of one little being. And who is the little being? That's what this book is about to instruct us. We don't know so far. Correct. So the I is something which we are not able to very clearly. They say that I is an epiphenomenon according to the Western science. That's a very quick and easy way to say that I don't want to think about it. If you want to really, throw away a particular thought line, you basically assume the worst of it. Then you have released yourself from the burden of thinking any further in this topic. So what is the I? I is created. Oh, acha, I is created. So we don't have to find it out. You can just leave it. The body comes together, the mind comes together, the life process comes together, the glucose comes together, the ammonia comes together, and suddenly I also starts copying. How ammonia can create I don't know. Yeah? Anyway, so this epiphenomenon is something which which science gives us as a solution for discovering, or rather branding the I, which our scriptures, they take the branding. It says that, okay, if you take that branding, you're going to have certain suffering, and allow that suffering to hurt you, to defeat you, and to make you sullen and depressed. But then he said, no, is there no way out? If he comes and cries, and to him he says, then give up that idea of I, have a better idea of I. The problem is that this idea of I that's holding a man in the clutch of the grief and in the clutch of all sufferings. So it's just the definition of I which makes a paradigm shift in the way we conduct ourselves in this beautiful planet. The planet that is created exclusively for us to understand, explore the definition of I. Matra sparshastu kaunteya, shitoshtu sukhadukkadaha. But then what are these experiences that we get? These experiences that we get, which seems to be so real to us, they are coming because of contacts. Can you define one experience without a contact? Everything is contact prone. Every form of experience is contact prone. Sparshaha, beautiful word he says. If the contact is not there, you don't have any experience at all. So why do you give so much value to an experience only if there is a contact? Rasagulla I have to take and put it in my mouth. A silk cloth I need to touch and feel the softness. Correct? So it's all arising only out of contact. And minus the contact, I'm nobody. Because I am always not pleasure seeking, I am contact seeking. Because pleasure word can be also kind of inward drawn. I can be pleased with my own self. I can find pleasure with my own self. But unfortunately, the guy is going for contacts. Contact means he becomes an aggressor. He will have to aggregate things. If he doesn't have a thing, he dare not lay his hand on it. I'm going to do it. He dare not lay his hand. So, sparshaha, the contact is the one which is giving you a variety of experiences. And you see, all our little, the world, big or small, or whatever we define, are just woven around this contact. Remove that, the world falls away into pieces. It's very sad. Matra sparshaha, shitoshna sukhadukkadaha. It gives you the experience of cold, ushna, heat, sukha, pleasure, dukkha, suffering. Shitoshna, sukha, dukkha. It gives all these things. And then later on also he says, mana and apamana. The man also, he as if on the edict of this kind of a false identification, he resurrects his ego. This edict itself is not properly grounded. And even weaker will be the ego that is held upon it. Agama payina anityaha. Anitya word is very often used. that these are impermanent. Man apparently seems to be hugging things to himself, thinking that he is going to have a long, petting relationship with those things. But he actually, frankly speaking, man is not such a fool. He knows. He knows that the age is going to come away, is going to take away. Whenever he becomes ill, he knows it. But the habit doesn't leave him. He has got into the wrong habit built during his child, adult, and youth days. Because the memory which is created during childhood, they are so strong, they don't leave. Even a patient with dementia expresses all the learnings of his childhood, but the later earnings are given up. So during your childhood, you think that you are invincible. You think that you can achieve everything. So that becomes a driving force even after you go old. You refuse to believe that you are a no-goer. In fact, that very thing is the essence which springs within your own consciousness as hope. What is this hope? It is that kind of a dastardly, brazen attitude of combating against anything that you will be put against. I'm saying brazen because fully without knowledge. There's no knowledge. That's why I'm using that word. As a result, what you see, this is a very strong impression in the mind, and that continues, and that keeps pushing the guy forward till he drops. That's really good. From the worldly sense, it is good, but it didn't serve the purpose because he was not after the real thing. Should he be using that propensity for finding out the real thing, then I would appreciate his wisdom. Why he did not follow the real thing? Because he did not listen to Gita. Not Jnanagamyanda's lecture, but Sri Krishna's Gita. Right? So Matra Sparshaha, that contact is the one which is weaving all these experiences, and they come and go, they give a variety of opposites. But a person who is able to stand apart from all these dualities and differences, not in the sense of being utterly callous, just as the way an ox sits in the pouring rain or under the scorching sun, undisturbed and unmoved, disturbing all traffics in Indian roads. Not that kind of a stoic courage, not that kind of insensitiveness. Staying away means as a witness, not allowing yourself to be moved, not allowing yourself to be disturbed, that which will destabilize you, that which will come and bias your further decisions. They say, who is they? I do not know. We keep saying they say. Anyway, they say that in a match of chess between two players, often the audience come with better moves. Because whether they win, whether they do a right move or not move, neither they are going to lose the trophy nor win the trophy. But the man who has set his eye on the trophy, he only knows the pang of every bad move, and that forces him to make a bad move. But on the other hand, if only, just imagine a situation where these two chess players, I would prefer to put Gukesh in one end, and whoever be the other guy. He says that he is off late is into meditation, so I really wish him well. And he meditates the way Sri Krishna says, just as the way Vyatayanti yete yam hina vyatayanti. The outcome of this match, whether I am going to really win or not, is absolutely inconsequential to me. Sama dukkha sukham, both are equally welcoming. Both I embrace oneness. Amritatvaya kalpate. He gets the nectarine bliss. He says that every move is a line in the sonnet. Written in the rhythm of bliss and joy. Suppose if a person can look at every battle in this manner, every move is going to be, a line in the poetry, and it is going to give him joy, and it removes him from the clutches of the consequences, which may be possibly inevitable at some cases. There are cases which is inevitable, but why unnecessarily, thread yourself into that? And then I am sure, I won't say Gukesh will win the match, but he will come out smiling in all cases. And he will play this match till not only his hair grows white, but also he becomes, sedentary also. He will be playing the match with equal vigor. Jiddu Krishnamurti used to say, you take a rose, you look at it, you smell the freshness, you enjoy the beauty for how long? 5 minutes? You put it into the vase and move it. Why is it that which got your attention a little while ago is not able to hold your attention for a little longer? Why? The big 3-letter question. Why? The reason is mind always look for something new, novelty mongering. The experience that you got became old, and you don't want old things to be with you. So you are seeking some fresh experience. Always you have the feeling of life only when you have the sense of renewal. You should have a sense of renewal. That one. You should have a sense of renewal. That's when we have the sense of living itself. Right? So Amritatvaya, he says, he will never get old. Mrita means death. Right? Amrita means he's undying. Undying means what? What doesn't die away? The enthusiasm doesn't die away. The joy doesn't die away. The curiosity doesn't die away. The appreciation doesn't die away. Nothing dies. It continues to be with him. Amritatvaya kalpate. Wow, for whom? A person who is able to abstract himself from all those dualities and be an observer. He may be a player, but he has that unique faculty within him by which he can also be an observer. Book says, I am not professing on it. It's just that I am translating the language. Nasato vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. Again, it says about that if something is to be non-existing, okay, something is non-existing, can it ever come into existence? It cannot. By the very definition of something being non-existence, it cannot be brought into existence. Like for instance, they say the hare's horn. Hare is a rabbit. Do rabbits have horn? They don't have horns. I hope. Unless they are genetically mutated. Okay, I will give another example which even in the wildest of imagination you cannot have. What the Bengalis say. Singher Mata Moshar Lej. Singher Mata Moshar Lej. That is a head of a weird creature, head of a lion, the tail of a mosquito. See? So can you conceive of a creature such as this? Non-existing. Will it ever come to existence? No, not at all. A challenge to all the biotics. Huh?
So when you say that something which is not existent, I mean something which is not there
cannot be brought into existence.
But then when you said that, suddenly you have an imagination about a particular thing. So for example, when you say that hair with a
horn,
yeah, it cannot exist on the ground, but then you can imagine it. So in that case, my question is that how do you understand truth? Because in your imagination, that is the reality, but in doubt, it's not a reality.
Yeah, if you say imagination is right, why don't you imagine yourself to be now in the 5-star hotel? Why don't you imagine yourself to be the fully learned, well accomplished, already the king of this, emperor of this world? Why don't you imagine? If it's real, right? Imagination is not real. Certainly not real. So reality does not require evidence. It is self-evident. For imagination, you require, proof that your imagination. You have to bring out evidence for imaginations. But reality is self-evident. So what happens here is that, so he says, Krishna says, that non-existing can never come to exist, and that which is existing, that which is defined as the very existence, you can never make it non-existent. I mean, this is our ultimate, punchline for us to define it. Then what is this body? Do you say that the body is existing? Yeah, this body is existing. Fine, if you say, then after some time this body goes away. So in the real sense of the term existence, this doesn't exist. The real sense this doesn't exist, because if a non-existent cannot be brought into existence, an existent thing cannot be removed. For instance, you may say matter. So this body, instead of saying a particular form of matter, you may say that matter in general exists. So this body may not exist exactly as the body, but it may exist as a matter. So you have a material existence, correct? Something is materially existing. So, but then, philosophy helps us to ask us about the origin of matter. Nobody can stop us from asking that question, correct? And then the philosophy also comes and gives an answer. There is something which is superior to matter even. They say energy. So is energy, no, energy, matter, duality, de Broglie, all those things are there. But then then this becomes totally, kind of speculatory. Then we quickly make a jump into the scripture. See, you can do derivation from step 1 to step 2 to step 3, if I'm not Ramanuja, with only one variable. At every step, you can tackle only one variable. You can't tackle too many variables in one step. That's when you can track. So you know that this change has come out of the earlier state by one variable change. And then from this to the next state, you go one variable change. Every step, you must have only one variable, if you're not Ramanuja. Okay, so like that, if you keep on doing, you go to that point where you have the duality, matter energy duality, and then now what is that variable will you change? So this is the place where our rationality ends. So then the scripture comes and tells that you cannot rationalize beyond causation, because these single variable changes that you are all working on, they are all based on causality. But beyond a point, your causality does not help. That is because existence is coming from that non-causal state. He says, and then the Shastra, the scripture, it proposes, it axiomatizes the existence of the soul, the spirit, the Atma, the Brahman, which is eternal, whose existence can never come to naught, and which has always existed in the past, in the present, always in the future. I mean, these are all the axioms. You can say, no, who is there to prove it? You cannot ask the proof, because the moment you ask for a proof, you are coming into causation. So this one, because causation has already led us to the state of duality, matter and energy, beyond which we are not able to go. So that's the reason why you are looking for knowledge coming from other sources. So then the scripture comes and says that while your scientific inquiry stops at one point, the spiritual inquiry starts from that. And he says that your identity, if it is going to be confined only within this causality, then you will be a football in the Messi's leg. He will mess with you. Correct? So if you want to relieve yourself, then come out of this causality, have an identification which supersedes this causality. And is it possible? Yes, it is very much possible. Krishna says. And this entire scripture is to make that immensely possible. For instance, when we began today's meditative session, there was a pneumatic drill. All of us heard. How many of you got disturbed? How many of you got... We were trying to concentrate on something, but then this one is picking out, right? Now, the question of hearing the pneumatic sound is one thing. The question of being disturbed by the pneumatic sound is another thing. If you say that I don't hear the pneumatic drill, then something wrong with your ears. Better go and give yourself the luxury and the leisure, because we are so busy with things. No? We have to give ourselves the leisure of treating our own weaknesses. But To be disturbed by the sound or not is within you. That's within you. That's what Sri Krishna wants to say. It's not the callous approach, it's a conscious approach. And you are not disturbed by that. You are yourself. Can you consolidate your position amidst all the wavering dualities? This is not a mere hypothesis, people have lived like that. Avinashi, it's undying. Antavanta, undying is the soul. But Antavanta means that which has got an end. This body has an end. But that indwelling, he is not dying. He is not going to die now. Not going to die forever, anytime. So now that you know that you are that very essence of your existence, so then why do you worry about somebody falling and then rising? Go ahead with your dharma. Because you have planned for it, execute it. Don't leave unfinished business. Because often we regret later. So go ahead with it, complete it. But then when you are doing that, hold on to that idea that you are that eternal self. And to that eternal self, no taint attaches. No weakness overpowers. No ignorance can engulf. It's knowledge, it's bliss, and it's consciousness, it's life. It's alive. Swami Vivekananda had to brace with this question. He says that, Swamiji, your system of philosophy is very negative. It always talks about someday you are going to die. Everything is evanescent. Nothing seems to be permanent. It seems to be very negative. And Vivekananda says that if this is not going to wake you up, then nothing else is going to. Unfortunately, this is the truth. How much ever you shovel it under the carpet, neither the dust nor the smell can you get rid of. He says that if you have to combat it, why not combat it right from the start day one? If that is going to be an inevitable consequence, face it from day one. Why postpone it for the future? So that was a beautiful answer which Sri Krishna, which Swami Vivekananda gave. That this is not a negative, that your body is going to die, all is going to die, and then you are going to be supreme. But I have come here to enjoy. He says that, yeah, I too understand, even I have come here to enjoy, but I know how to enjoy this better. The discussion between Rockefeller and Vivekananda, he took the orange and then squeezed it, and then says, see, I want to squeeze every drop out of it, for I want to have the joy of this. He says, I too want to have the joy of this life, but I know how to eat it. He peeled it and then put all the slices into his mouth. I don't want even a drop of it to slip from my fingers. You see, there are different ways of enjoying this life. So Krishna says that you are not going to lose. You're not going to lose. And then with regards to killing and non-killing, there is some kind of language being employed. He says that, what do you mean by kill? I mean, there is something, it's an objective activity where you are causing death of a person and so on. None of this can be attributed to the eternal self. And then he says, very wonderful expletives, Ajo, Nityaha, Shashvataha, Purana. 4 expletives he gives with regards to the Atma. Ajaha means unborn. Well, unborn, anything not existing is also not born. Okay, so Ajaha. But he says Nityaha. It was always there. So he puts the immediate contrary. Ajaha, unborn. Is it non-existing? No. Nitya is permanent. Shashvataha is eternal. Puranaha. The Puranaha idea is a wonderful idea. Swami Prabodhanandaji Maharaj, he was in San Francisco, maybe, yeah. So that time, one brahmachari, that time he was working in one company. Working in a company, So he went and asked Swamiji, we all talk about self-realization and experience the bliss of the Atma, so on and so forth. But what if we get bored of it? Bored of, no, not before attaining it, after attaining it. Just as the way you take Rasagulla, how many Rasagullas can you shovel inside? You can't. More than a few. Even if you try to do, you can't enjoy. Right? So you will not get bored. Then Prabhupada Maharaj gave a beautiful advice. He said that you see, this self is ever new. It refreshes itself. Self is refreshing, it is renewing itself. Again, these are all axiomatic. It's a nice way of saying that you will never be bored with it. Because everything it is new. Mind is novelty mongering, seeking something new. And if this Atma if it is renewing itself, you will always be, happy, so to say, in the very mundane terminology. You will be very happy and composed and contented to have the experience of the Atma. So this renewing itself comes from the word Purana. Purana means what? Pura api Navam. Pura means very ancient, very old. And Navam means new. So it's an oldest thing. Never was a thing older than that. But doesn't mean that you will get bored with it, because it's renewing itself and it's new. Veda vinashina nityam yena majam katham sapurusha partha kam ghati. And with regards to this body coming and going away, Sri Krishna uses the simile of the way we use the garments. You see, we take a garment, use it and throw it away after it's unusable. So likewise, the soul also takes the body. Incidentally, it's not just the human body. It's also the body of a bacteria. It's also the body of a dinosaur. Every body. According to then what kind of a body a particular soul will take? A cockroach body, or a mosquito body, or a rat, or a bird, or a fish. Which body will it take? Is it random? No, we are actually getting into the psychology part. It's more of a psychology now. Krishna has an answer for that. Later on he says that. Shastra, what it says is, you see, what you call insentient things and sentient beings, what is the difference? It's the degree of manifestation of the consciousness. If the consciousness is manifested the least, then it apparently seems to be insentient. And higher degrees of manifestation comes along with it higher and higher forms of life, starting from bacteria and going up to Buddha. Starting from bacteria to Buddha. So higher and higher manifestation of the consciousness. So it's like, the double slit experiment. You throw light through two slits. You get a wave pattern. You cover one slit, you suddenly start seeing particular nature of this. Michelson-Morley's double slit experiment. You know that, right? Dual nature of light. We used to study way back in our 12th standard. Correct? Manifestation. One slit closed. Automatically a new dimension is opening out. As if it becomes particle. And when both the slits are there, it is wave. What is a wave? What is a particle? Now they are different manifestations. So likewise, you have more pores in your being. Waves can become much more, a kind of a third level, fourth level, nth level matters. And then comes along with it different forms of knowledge. Because the very manifestation is knowledge only. Consciousness is knowledge only. When you say I, what is that I? I is the knowledge. That's knowing about your own self. What the problem with that I is in the mapping. not with the I itself. It's the mapping which goes wrong. So as a result, what happens is more the manifestation, better the identity. So we have bacteria in one end, and the Buddha, a fully evolved soul, in the other end. And this particular soul that is being talked about also happens to tackle all kinds of, external inflictions. It cannot be cut. Nainam chindanti shastrani, nainam dahati pavaka. The fire cannot burn. These are all, quite metaphorical. It has the property by which none of these forces can act. So if you want to basically, see, now Durga Puja is going to come in a month's time. Durga is given 10 arms, and then she comes with a pageantry of gods, and then hoisted on a lion, and then the very gruesome and very cruel Rakshasa humbled at her feet. What is this? What is this picturization? This picturization is a demonstration of power, sheer power. But why do you want to do that? Because we are weak. And we want to know that the mother in whom we are taking refuge is powerful. We don't want to take shelter under someone who cannot vouch for our life, or who cannot vouch protection. So, in order to fulfill that psyche within us, we create an image which is overwhelmingly powerful. And in fact, if you go through Devi Mahatmyam, second chapter, incidentally, similar to the second chapter, you will find how invincible this Rakshasa Mahishasura was. He kept on taking a variety of forms. Mother is hurling weapon after weapon after weapon against this Mahishasura, and he was not vanquished. They couldn't remove a hair from his body. And every time his body is hurt, he throws away the body, he takes another body. Vasamsi jirnani yatha vihayana vani grinhati loparani. Exactly the way Sri Krishna says. It's a very, very picturesque description. First she comes and he comes in the form of a buffalo. And then she cuts her head, the head of the buffalo. It gets converted into an elephant. Another body. And then he cuts the trunk of the elephant. She cuts the trunk of the elephant. And then it immediately gets converted to a lion. And then she cuts the head of the lion. Again he becomes a man form. She cuts the head of the man. Again she becomes a buffalo. He becomes a buffalo. And the cycle continues. Only for the cycle to continue. Started with buffalo, ended with buffalo. That means what? Next he is again going to become an elephant. There is no point in cutting this body. Another body is going to be taken. The same soul is going to hoist into another body, but it's not going to live up the tendencies. The momentum that has been created has to be taken to a point where it goes through a state of emancipation. It has to exhaust all the past karmas.
Mahishasura is the example of the transience of body.
No, I am just mapping it. That's why I said don't follow Dharakamyata. Follow Gita. So just a kind of a mapping. There he says the bodies are given or taken, but in the very life we can see Mahishasura just throwing the body as if it is nothing for him. He takes another body, being conscious of being Mahishasura. That was his greatness. That is something speaks about his spiritual power. Because he was born with the blessing of Lord Shiva himself. So he had that particulated grace within him. Anyway, the Purana unwinds thereafter. So the point here is Achedyoyam. The soul is something which cannot be killed. But then how to stop Mahishasura? So what mother did was, she put her put her feet, not feet, actually thumb, on the Mahishasura's shoulder and then suck his soul into himself, into herself. Well, the moment she took the power into herself, then the whole thing fell lifeless. It was subsequently a carcass. It was not a being, just a dead. So what happens is that, see, this Shastra was not able to do anything to the soul. But a kind of a divine transformation happened. She divined it. That mother could do it, others cannot. So like this, Sri Krishna goes through, it's called the Sankhya Yoga. He talks about the glory of the self, and he says that exactly the way it went about, that don't confuse the body, embodiment, with what is embodied. Embodiment is our being, Dhyanagammyanda talking. That is embodiment. But the one embodying is the soul within, so that I cannot call it as Dhyanagammyanda. But if that fellow removes, this body falls down. It's no more Dhyanagammyanda. So Krishna makes this particular knowledge very pertinent, in very supreme and prime in Arjuna's understanding. And then he says, this soul is something which is ascharyavat pashyati. People are very, adulatory about the soul. They talk in very flowery language. And they are very surprised about it. By just hearing, by just talking about it. But it eludes the grasp of the intellect. With intellect you cannot reach it. However you may try, with intellect it cannot be reached. So that means what? Your reasoning has to stop. And then the first weapon, the first mode of education ends here. The second mode starts. So this it's kind of a tea time for Arjuna. He says that you have given a heavy dose of jnanam. So let me come down to some very down-to-earth practical value. You see, you are born as a Kshatriya. And what will people think of you? All of a sudden you give up your own. Say for example, tomorrow is your examination. Okay, and then you say, no, I won't give this examination. What do your friend will think? Really, peer pressure, peer opinion, public opinions. So we must respect public opinion. Public opinion is not all that bad after all, Sometimes they are chastisers. It makes our thinking very clear. Because the whimsical mind can be put to rest and made, go ahead, only in this direction. That fellow will laugh at you. He will laugh at you, The moment you say that, because we have our own identity so preserved in the cocoon, which is pampered by us, we don't want this identity to be belittled in front of someone's eyes. So when that proposition, when there is a chance for that to happen, you immediately recoil and then say, no, I'll somehow get this done. Whether I pass or fail, at least I'll give the exam. Correct? So Sri Krishna is appealing to that kind of a mundane experience. Swadharmam api, which is your dharma. And if you don't do your dharma, what will people call you? They will call you coward. Nindanti. They will insult you. And the kind of gift that you have got, this is not everybody. See, for instance, they say, I wanted to be a mechanical engineer. But the situation was such, I had to do some science. And then I ended up doing IT. And then IT is, is a heavy aggressor. If you have lost your track, take it up. Take IT up. It comes and salvages everyone. Now AI is also there. So, to get something which is after your heart is not everyone's cup of tea. There are sufficient amount of forlorn souls which grieves over not getting the best bit, and then they had to compromise. Correct? Krishna admonishes Arjuna on that front. He says, what better gift can a Kshatriya get? So if a person who is aspiring for mechanical engineering in IIT, if he gets mechanical engineering, will he give up or not? He will certainly take it up. There's no doubt about it. And if he were to give it up citing some other reason, it's only foolishness. It's foolishness. And people will say, "Arey, you have been talking so high about mechanical engineering and you have just like that given it up after having you getting that rare opportunity." Oh, there can be no one stupid as you are. See, this you cannot digest. This particular kind of admonition or a kind of taunt is something which cannot be digested. So he says, such a thing has befallen on your, that too given on a golden platter. Edrichaya. Edrichaya means unanticipated. You didn't divine this. Just that the sequence of events and the time favoring, suddenly the situation has come up to this. That you have to fight this war for justice, for restoring justice. And then you want to give it away. So that kind of a, appealing to the very, very mundane psychology of Arjuna. And then he says, if you run away, people, Bhaya Drana Duparatam, Anchante Tva Maharataha, Bhutva Yasi, you will become very small in their perspectives. And then he says, Acha, why do you have to do all that? Then the kind of a compromise is attained. See, if you are worried of dying, you know that you are going to reach heavens. We know that it is actually a Dharma Kshetra. So the Kurukshetra war has, that particular field has got that blessing. That is quite incidental in the explanation. But nevertheless, it says that the person who does devotedly his Dharma, he has a larger life at his disposal. That's what the scripture ensures. That's something which is debatable. We can ponder over it at leisure time. He says that if you are going to live, you are going to enjoy sovereignty. And then he takes up the second one is over, then he takes up the third one. From the perspective of karma. He says, the person who has done the job that is given to him, such a person has never failed. So failure is not in the actual outcome of the work. Whether failure or success actually is in the very performance of the work. They say the means should justify the end, right? The means should justify the end. So here the means is performance. And the end will be getting or not getting. Some result is going to come. So this means is going to justify that. So we cannot jump the means anticipating the end to come. So for that reason, you will have to go through the means. And in going through the means, there is no loss or defeat. There is no loss, there is no success. So everyone will have to go through the means, go through the transformation. The child will need to grow. It is so happy being cuddled by the mother. But how long? After 3-4 years, if still the mother carries the child, it's not that the mother who will be blamed, but the child will be chastised, will be insulted. So one has to grow. So the means will have to justify the end. Growth will have to, can come only if there is an effort. And people, quite often, they glorify the end. Keep glorifying the end and they get misled in the way. Is there any shortcut to achieving those ends? Krishna says, if you do that, the shortcut is actually a kind of a misleading. You are not going to achieve your success if you take shortcuts. Because there are people who will say, see, life here should be enjoyed. We have only one life with us. Why do you waste your time in philosophy? Sunday morning, 10 to 11, 10 to 12, prime time for enjoyment. Why should one go to the Vivekananda study circle and then listen to some glibber, I don't want to use that word, some prattle. Yeah, prattle is a nice word. Because by chance also you can say something truth in prattles. So why do you want to listen to the prattle? No, there are umpteen other things. You can have a lot of enjoyment, a lot of sense gratification. If not, let us have a long sleep. So it's so gratifying. Why should we come this far? So here, the message which Sri Krishna is trying to say here is that there are people who will dissuade you from taking the right path. Not because they are really interested in you. It's because they want to gather more votes for their way of lifestyle. A smoker will roam. Please don't mistake me. Is there any smoker in this class? It doesn't matter. But a smoker will be very happy in the presence of another smoker. Correct? He will freely offer a cigar. But later on he will only know that how much he is going to take from him. So always in company people find joy. Company of like-mindedness. Right? The drunkards want to be together. The smokers want to be together. Even people who are singing kirtan. Singing kirtan alone does not give joy. Group kirtan, what a transporting experience it is. So what happens? Such people, what they will do is, showing some short-sighted pleasures, they will try to gain strength by roping them into their group. Beware of them. Don't do that. Life is not meant to be frittered away in the hands of nature. and then Arjuna is given one breathing moment to ask a question. Rather, Krishna is given the breathing moment and Arjuna asks a question. Sthita prajnasya ka bhasha. So what is the mind of, you are saying that a man will be very stable, he will be very self-composed. But then what will be the conduct of such a person? How he will behave? How is he going to walk? How is he going to sit? How he is going to conduct himself in front of others? So he is asking for very, very practical evidences. Going to a Himalayan peak and then getting completely engrossed in a non-dualistic meditation is not going to help me. I cannot go behind him to see him, whether he is doing meditation or he is demented. I really do not know. But if the man is going to be in the middle of society, do we have such person? If we have, then how will he be like? So he says, Krishna answers, the person first, such a person would have had all his desires quelled. He would not have any desires. I need to go attain this, achieve this for sense gratification, for self-glorification. That won't be there. However, he'll be doing it, but not attached with his own self. There won't be any personalization of goals. There won't be any reward seeking. All these are there in desires. There is a goal, there is a reward seeking, and then there are a lot of calculations. So being desireless doesn't mean that being like a wood. A wood is desireless. It's not like that. People often mistake. Desires are dangerous. Frankly speaking, desires are dangerous. Without desires, we can actually work a lot better. People say desire is a motivation force. No. Desire is not a motivation force. Krishna proves it throughout the book. So, come on, that particular desire, if it gets kind of, smothered, then what happens? He becomes satisfied with his own self. He functions in this world being completely self-composed. And his mind does not get troubled over incidents, accidents, and sorrowing visions. He is not attached. He is neither attached to the good nor attached to the evil. Both ways. And the very important thing here, Krishna brings in, if somebody praises you, suddenly you will find a golden ball bubbling forth from the intestine up to the head. And it crowns you in all glory. So enjoyable experience. The praise is something even I do. I don't miss even a moment. Because it is coming, let us have it now. But one should not lose oneself in it. At the same time, if somebody heaps insults on you, at that time we cringe within ourselves. Correct? We don't have the strength to possibly that may be because we have already accepted. And what we have already accepted and agreed, he only amplifies it in front of us. So in both praise as well as an insult, we have accepted. So he says, these two things are really mattering to you. Only we are accepting it, so don't accept that. Just give it up. Whatever you have thought to yourself about you, just give it up. That notion is not going to help you, because the thing which makes you happy and the thing which makes you sad, that means you are being remote controlled. That means if your system is going to be a complex system, where there are more than one force which is not within your control but controlling you. Such a system is called a complex system. That is a system in which all forces are self-contained. It's a simple system. And if it has external forces, then it becomes a complex system. And complex system leads to chaos. These are all pure theory. So as a result, I will finish with this particular narration of Sri Krishna. This is called as the Sthaprajnasya Lakshanam. Welcome. So he says, whenever such occasion arises, wherein the past identification, the past momentum apparently seems to dominate or overtake in him and make him weak, at that time he withdraws all his senses. That means he doesn't consume that. If he consumes, then only he is getting into problem. Correct? So don't consume it. Just as the way a tortoise withdraws all its limbs within the shell, whenever there is something which appears in its near vicinity as a threat, it withdraws its limbs. In that way, a person also, somebody praising, immediately a bulb glows within himself. Hey, this Swati, Dhanagamyananda, this is not the time for you to loiter. Come back within and shut the doors. Enough of loitering. And then you, with all equanimity, you just listen. You don't have to refuse. So I still have got to learn a lot. And then he says, there are people, in order to attain that equanimity, some people, what they do is, they undergo a lot of extreme exercises. That is, they dry up their senses. If the mouth wants food, they don't give food. The stomach hungers for something, they don't give. So by going this extreme step of denying the basic wants of the body, can you control your senses? No, you cannot. The reason is, you have made the hunger much more pronounced. The hunger is much more pronounced. By depriving the self of the enjoyments that you are supposed to get, just by mere deprivation, without any qualitative improvement. There must be a qualitative improvement, training of the mind, a value education in the mind, along with this kinds of self-denial or withdrawal. But if that value education doesn't happen and only sticks to exercising an external restraint, such a person will suffer the fall. Because there will be at some later point in time when he gives up the position and indulges in a bit of extravagant enjoyment, his entire citadel collapses. Rasavarjam rasopyasya. But even that hunger for that joy, where will it go? Only when the person gets the vision of the ultimate. Then it goes away. So the soul is being now held aloft, saying that a person, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, suppose you have a needle and you want to thread the needle. And you know that needle has got a lot of fibers. And if the fibers are going to be very cluttered, not one-pointed, do you think you can thread the needle? It's not possible. So even if a one fiber is going to stay outside the line, it's going to be an obstruction for you to thread the needle. Likewise, Sri Krishna says that even if there is going to be one thing which is mundane, you are going to desire after, then the knowledge of the self will be eluding your intellectual grasp. That knowledge will not be able to dawn in your intellect. So that's why he says, Sarvan Kaman, all the desires will have to be quelled. But you cannot quell these desires by enjoying one after another. Enjoyment is only going to increase the conflagration. You know, that's a beautiful story that it's said in Mahabharata. Yayati is a king. This king, what he did was, he took away the lives of his own children. So he had some gift, saying that if somebody were to gift their life to him, he can extend his life. So he had about seven children or something. So 6 lives he took away from the children, and his children, he demanded the life out of. He said, "It's me who gave you up, who gave you. So you have the bounden duty to serve me, your father. Okay, what do you want? I want your life. Okay, take it." So all of them gave. And what this joker did, he took all those lives, hundreds and hundreds of lives he took, years he took, and then spent it in sense enjoyments. He says that I am going to find the end of this, because I have got this rare gift of extending my life. And then finally, he also had to face the inevitable, but the hunger for the desire was not even a shred, a fiber reduced. On the contrary, it was only, and then he says, you know what I tried? I tried to quell the fire by throwing fuel into it. Such was my stupid exercise. That's a big learning. That comes as a moral from Yayati's story. So such is going to be our, even if Yayati gave a free hand to all the desires, but even if one is going to stay with us, it's not going to permit us. Rather, it's going to be a very stubborn obstacle for us to attain the equanimity. Krishna says. And then he says, a person who is engaged in continuously among the sense objects, he gets attached to it. The more he gets attached, the more he wants. The more he wants, the more will be the disappointment for not attaining it. The more the disappointment, they all will be converted to anger. More the anger, he commits a lot of crimes. In those crimes, the first and foremost crime here is that for him the discrimination, which is right and which is wrong. An angry man has never taken the right decision. In English they say, anger is momentary insanity. Right? So nobody has taken the right decision. So that because the discrimination of what is right and what is wrong, an insane man cannot take. That goes away, and as a result, he gets completely misled by his own imagination, and imagination won't have any basis. Subsequently, scripture says it leads to loss of memory, because the good and the bad are all there in your memory. How do you recognize something as good? Because you know about it. You have had a past experience, or you have been taught. So you recognize good and evil by all your earlier learnings. And that memory is very important for us. So he says that if a memory is confounded in all this kind of sequence of decline, then you will see that you have lost discrimination and leading to loss of memory. And what accrues to a man and a being if memory is not there? A man is always memory. Without memory, you are not the worth what we are. So, very, very systematic degradation of through psychological reasoning, Sri Krishna puts. So he says, a person should not be always surrounded by the objects of enjoyment. He has to withdraw himself, either physically, if not otherwise, mentally. And once he does that, his mind attains equanimity, and in the equanimity alone, the man attains peace. And the chapter ends with one shloka. I will finish just one shloka. One shloka I will finish, and then we'll get into the question and answer session. So he says that a person who has attained the self, to him what happens? Will he not enjoy? The question comes: if you put Rasagulla in his mouth, will he not find the taste of Rasagulla and say, it's really good, huh? K.C. Das. Huh? K.C. Das is much appreciated here, not in Bengal. So, will he enjoy this world or not? He says, okay, that's a very good question. There is always a simile in the tip of his tongue for Krishna. He says, just as the way the ocean is brimming with water, and yet it is undisturbed, with lots of rivers and rivulets entering into it. It's unable to disturb the poise of the ocean, right? That means what? It's having all the enjoyment through all these various senses called rivers and rivulets. The person will be having the experience of all the sense objects, but his soul will be undisturbed, just like a placid ocean. Wonderful simile. Apuryamana machala pratishtam samudramapa pravishanti yadvat tadvat kama. The desires pravishanti sarve sashanti mapnoti na kama kami. Only a person who has established in the self will be able to really handle these objects of desires. You will be able to handle the objects. Now we are being handled by the objects of desire. We are not handling it. We are not masters of the objects. We are slaves to the objects. We become masters only when we attain the status of the self. It's not escape and run away from the world. It's the real mastery over here. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu. Yes, sir.
Or something, we should have desire. And there is a famous quote of speech of be foolish, be hungry. So it doesn't matter. If we don't have desire, then how will we move it? If we think it's okay, if I don't get in the top or if everything is okay, then how will we achieve great thing in life?
That's a good question. So he actually wants a method of replacing desire with another motivation. So desire is a singular motivation for us. That's what you're trying to say. I really don't know whether I can.
But the other motivation is also a desire. If you have another motivation, that's also a desire.
No, see, I have already qualified the sense of desire. I did not leave the desire an open-ended definition. I already qualified. That is, it is confined to your own self. The desire, which is that feeling within you, which is confined to your own self, where you are using your five senses to realize the desire, to fulfill the desire.
So only selfish desire.
Self-centered. Yeah.
Other desires are okay.
Now the thing here is, the other desires do not qualify themselves to be called as desires at all.
That is a desire.
Well, if you call it, then yeah, you may have to bring in this kind of a distinction. So say for instance,
I mean,
there is a guy on the road. Okay, he is bleeding. Now you run forward and then you remove him from the road, and then you give him the first aid, whatever possible. No, is that motivated by desire? Is that action motivated by desire?
The desire to self the
No. It's not. You don't call that, nah. That is an urge. There is a fundamental urge in you. There's a fundamental urge in you which is superseding your desire. Your desire is actually to go to the coffee shop and have a very good coffee at that time. There's a strong desire for you which actually brought you onto the road. But then you put your desire around and then try to fulfill a more fundamental urge. A part of a duty consciousness which is all of a sudden surfacing within you, where you have expanded your own self. You are not confined within fulfilling that which is very particular and individualistic to you. Suddenly you seem to be outgrowing yourself, and then you have included another being into your consideration. Your mind is introducing another being into its conscience for consideration. That's not desire. That's if you call it desire, yeah, I will call it good desire. Then we may have to say good desires and bad desires. Actually, technically speaking, kama is the word used. Okay, see, English, unfortunately, is not a right language to translate these Sanskrit terminology. The word kama is self-centric.
So I think
When it comes to another person, the word tyaga comes. When you are doing something for another person, then the word tyaga should be used, not kama. When you are doing only to yourself, you have to use the word kama. So now, if you put everything as desire, I do not know whether this connotation is preserved in the English usage. It's not, unfortunately. So that's the reason why we are expanding the applicability of a terminology and not getting the true sense of the word.
But I think what many people confuse with desire is as motivation. So there can be a difference between motivation and desire. Desire, like you rightly said, it is more self-centered because it also.
No, desire is also one motivation.
Okay. But
Desire is desire is not the only motivation.
yes. So I totally get it. And then the thing is that desire with itself also brings a pain. Like if you're not getting a thing that you desire, it also gets that miserable and painful feeling. But motivation does not have that kind of a connotation. Motivation is mostly generally positive. That's driving you. So I look at it that way.
So
Actually, motivation also is not appropriate according to our scripture. It says sankalpa. Sankalpa word is used. Sankalpa is I want to achieve something which is different from me, which is not there with me. That separation comes. There is a sense of duality. And then you set your will. You set your will to achieve it. So that setting the will is called sankalpa. Krishna says, in the 4th chapter, he goes on saying that, you see, this sankalpa should not arise out of kama.
Yes.
This sankalpa should not arise out of kama. And he puts another word. So this is what is called kama sankalpa. Okay, kama sankalpa is sankalpa arising out of kama. Kama is the desire. I want to take a cup of coffee. Okay, then you decide, yes, 11 o'clock, I will go to the coffee board and have coffee. So you set a will. Now, setting the will is called sankalpa. And then there may be several hindrances to that. Somebody will come and say, hey, I need to, no, after coffee only. So you can ward away several of these obstructions. But someone, like a wounded deer in the IIT roads, will immediately make you change your targets. So when you do that, that time the desire has gone to the background. So the sankalpa that you have taken, you have dropped. Now another thing has come and taken. So Krishna says the sankalpa, the will that you are setting, should not be motivated by desires. First thing. And then he puts another word, beautiful word. He says, but be careful. The moment you take sankalpa, it may not have originated from desire. That's okay. Because here, I need to save this deer. I'll have to take him to the health center for the first aid. So an urgency is felt and then you take a sankalpa. Correct? Krishna comes and gives us a very poignant reminder. He says that, beware, Arjuna, at this moment, because of this sankalpa, a desire can sprout. Another unknown, unplanned, unthought, unexpected desire can all of a sudden sprout. What kind of a desire will sprout? Instantly in the newspaper you want to have yourself that you have saved the deer. You have saved a deer. Your mind is already racing for that. First, there was an instinctive reaction, and then what happens? Then the sankalpa came that to help, and out of this sankalpa comes another desire. This now, so the desire, it requires only an excuse to come out. Did I answer your question? I didn't answer your question, of course.
So it means that if the desire is around, like desire is something which we are seeking for pleasure, that will give me pleasure, that I will enjoy something or
Yeah, correct. I.
Then it is desire.
Desire.
Something that
That is called karma. That is called karma.
And it's something that I want to achieve something higher than me that I have never been. Like for example, if I want to go higher, I want to do more research. I have never done. I want to achieve that state, so that doesn't come under desire.
Doesn't come under desire. That doesn't come under karma. No, see, that is terminology. What to do? Then people use the word, see, for instance, I'll tell you one instance. Sri Ramakrishna tells, you see, the sweetmeats are not healthy. See, the diabetes and sugar problem are there even those days, and they have understood the white sugar is not good thing. Even Ayurveda says that. So Sri Ramakrishna says, sweetmeats are not good. You cannot take more of it. But then he says, michri is an exception. Michri is, the foam. When you actually, not palm. Candy. Yes. Candy.
We call it mishri in Hindi.
Mishri, see, what happens is, mishri, if you take the kalkandu, we say in Tamil. Kalkandu. What do you?
In Hindi, it's mishri.
Mishri.
Yeah.
In Mishri, we say in Bengali. Correct. So that particular, if you take sugar juice, it's an exothermic. It creates an exothermic reaction. You feel hot. Take sugar candy juice. If you take sugar candy juice, you feel hot. That's the reason why, in order to make yourself cool, you take limbu. Limbu cools down. Now you take michirijol, you will feel cool. Both are sugar. This kalkandi is also sugar only. But how is it that this fellow is cools your body, but that fellow heats your body? Both are coming from the same source. They are at the different stages. At the different stages, they are extracted out of the burning molasses.
Or more as we call it quality.
That's what, but it has.
Different kind of desire and its quality.
No, yeah, okay, you can do that. Or you can, see, abstraction can be done at any level. That's true. Good desire, bad desire. A desire which binds you.
Or selfish desire.
See, people when they say, hey, you have to get rid of desires. Then do you categorically get rid of desires or what? So that very statement says that you have to get rid of bad desires. Correct? So now what are bad desires? The bad desires are the ones which creates more and more bondages for me. More and more bondages. It robs away my freedom.
Okay, but also creating bondage.
If you think that it's creating bondage, then don't do it. It's all about you, right? See, bondage here is what? Again, another question. Bandhanam is a word. Bandhanam means you are tied. What are you tied with? You are tied with your limited identity. See, it's always individual centric. These words have to be seen. The words have to be seen individual centric. That is, see, what is if I am thinking about you, the benefit of you, how I can help you, that means I am outgrowing myself. I have outgrown my identity. I am not thinking within my own frame. There my I is diluted. A mother tends to the growing child. Now her identity includes the child, includes her husband, includes her all the in-laws, and then the whole family. She works for the whole family, so her identity is sort of smeared. Now you will not call that bandhan in the sense of when she does it as a service, it's not a bandhan for her because she has outgrown from her limited wants to a sense of a larger reckoning and larger need. She's responding to a larger need.
So I think of, as we talk about good and bad desires, think of that desire as hedonistic desire.
Pardon me?
Hedonistic
Hideous,
desire.
yes. Hideous.
Something that is so limited to yourself that all you can think of is yours.
Correct.
Whereas good desire, I think of is something as seva. Something that takes you away from yourself. So
Very true.
even if you're creating gods with the other person, by saving them, it's a form of saving. And that's where Swami's point of a desire coming due to seva or sankalp comes into being, because you have to be cautious of the desire. So the seva that you do is very from egoistic nature.
So Swami Vivekananda, I think in a lecture in Raja Yoga, he talks about two forces. So I don't know. He has studied physics also, centripetal force and centrifugal force.
Going inside outside.
Ah. So he uses these two forces, and he says the moment you become very self-centric, in the sense even the self is not well defined there. You see, the self is limited only to the body, mind, and intellect. Only three. If the self is the true self, yeah, that's the real thing we want. That's the only thing we want. But self is often mistaken to be the conglomerate of the body, mind, and intellect. Something superior, something inferior, something dominating, something dormant. But more or less, it is within the body, mind, and intellect. So that kind of selfish identification is really bad, according to the Shastra. Bad in the sense that it's not going to do you eternal good. In that sense, we are happy with Rasagullas, that's okay. But it's not going to, we cannot continue being along that. Yes, sir?
I have three questions.